Hi, everyone. I'm the Dynamite Doll, and this is episode number 10 of Dirt with the Doll. My guest today, I'm super excited. He is hailing from Philadelphia, my favorite city, as we all know. He is my new friend, the Blue Meanie. How are you today? Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Hello, Doll. Thank you for having me. Coming from the land of extreme, as I live 10 minutes from the ECW arena in the heart of South Philly, right near all the sports venues. I know you're a big Philadelphia sports fan as well. The first time I realized you're a Philadelphia fan is you randomly, were chanting for the Phillies. I was like, oh, she likes Philly sports. I liked her before. I like it even better now. So great to be here. Yeah,
Yes,
there you go. There you go.
I love this cup. So
Awesome.
we first connected on Facebook. So my Facebook feed actually thinks that I'm from Philadelphia because I'm so obsessed. So I get all the Philadelphia news. And then I saw you actually post a fan, a really, really loyal fan at wrestling shows had passed away, I believe, recently.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I saw your post and I actually didn't even realize it was you, but I shared it because it resonated with me. You know, going to wrestling shows my whole life, you always have those fans that are front row and loyal, and they really make the show and get the audience going. And there's something really special about Philadelphia fans. So that was my first coming across you on Facebook. And then I sent you a friend request, and then I saw that we're both going to be at the Manchester convention in
Yeah,
February for the Love of Wrestling. So I
absolutely.
was just like, wow, what a meant to be friendship. And here we are today. So super cool.
Yeah, the fan, who passed away was a guy named Stan the Fan. It's weird. I know all these ECW fans or Philadelphia wrestling fans. Don't
Yeah.
be fooled. A lot of the, ECW fans, they were like ECW would also go to WWF shows. So, like Hat Guy, but like Stan the Fan was one of those guys. He was a good he would stir the pot, he would get the crowd riled up, he was that one fan that the wrestlers could find in the crowd and have an
Yeah.
interaction with to the point where people go, "Hey, leave him alone."
It's like he loves it.
He loved it. He loved it. He thrived for it. And I would always see him at conventions here in Philadelphia. And the one most touching time is like we had a convention around Christmas, and he brought me a Christmas card, which I'm
Oh,
sure I still have in my merchandise bin. And Stan was a good guy. He used to come to shows with his mom, and his mom passed away. But you know, you always got to pay tribute to the fans who. Well, I'm a fan too. I'm a.
yeah.
Before I joined ECW, I was going to ECW shows as a fan.
Yeah.
So, shared seats with Stan and Hat Guy and all the usual suspects that are in the ECW crowd. But and then I remember you sharing the post, and that meant a lot. And then we connected and became friends, and I make sure now that anything going on in Philly sports, I share it with you on
I know. I
Instagram.
love that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
because
love that my Facebook keeps me up to date. So I thought it was yesterday. Well, I'm not sure how many years ago. In 1996, you guys had the biggest snowstorm ever that Philadelphia's ever had. So that showed up on my feed. I'm well educated.
yeah, the blizzard of '96, which that was I had just moved back to Philadelphia from I was born in Philadelphia. And then when I was 2, my family moved over the bridge to New Jersey, and we lived in a small town called Gloucester City. And then my grandfather retired, and then my grandparents moved to Atlantic City. And to help take a little bit of a burden off my mom, because it was me and my sister, my grandparents were like, "Hey, Brian can come with us to Atlantic City," because my mom was working and she's trying to go to school for
Yeah.
dental assistant. So they, brought me to Atlantic City. I lived down there till 94, uh, moved back, and then, 96, we got hit with the blizzard. But,
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate, this timing and everything has been on my side when it comes to, everything wrestling. But,
Yeah.
it's cool that, me and you, you share our love of Philadelphia sports and love of, wrestling and everything that comes along. We can relate to so much as far as like wrestling because we've seen it from both sides. But it's cool that you're huge into the Philly scene. And Mrs. Meanie always says, that I'm a fan of anybody who is from Philly or a fan of Philly.
Yeah.
So, you know,
There's something relatable why you gravitate towards each other. Can
oh
you explain to my viewers what makes Philly sports fans so unique? Because that's really why I fell in love with Philadelphia the first time I came. It was just something so different.
Philadelphia is just a working class city. Um, you know, and you go back to, the 50s, 60s, 70s when, especially the 70s when, the economy was kind of rough and, it was, hard to make ends meet. And, people would go to work with a lunch pail and, come home with busted knuckles, blue collar busted knuckle town. Uh, and at the end of the day, all us Philadelphians wanted was a happy distraction from our daily grind, going to work, whether it's in a mill or a factory, or down on the docks, working in the shipping yards or down at the Navy Yard building boats and stuff like that. At the end of the day, you want to come home, watch sports. I always say my grandfather taught me a lot about football. He taught me about football. He taught me how to swear at the TV during football. But we're just a blue collar town, and we want a return on our investment. When you watch sports, when you watch pro wrestling, you just want somebody to give effort. We're all big on effort. You could lose 100 out of 100 times, but if you showed that you were trying to win and had a little bit of character about you, we latched onto you and fell in love with you. Or even if you won all the time and you showed a little bit of character and showed hard work, Philadelphia would fall in love with you. That's why, the 1993 Phillies, they lost the World Series, but they're one of the most loved teams in Philadelphia history just because they showed character, they showed grit, they showed the determination to win. And when they lost, that just, it was gut wrenching. But Philadelphia sports fan are a unique breed because we come from, a place where we just want to have, we want to work hard. And at the end of the day, we just want to have something to take us off our minds of what we're going through. That's why I say professional wrestling and sports are a happy distraction from everyday life. And,
Yeah.
if I can, something I do in the ring makes somebody a little bit happier or makes them forget about their crappy day at work, then that's, just as
You're doing your
rewarding.
job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rewarding.
What
So
was your first introduction to wrestling? You saw my dad wrestle in the Spectrum, I believe.
yeah, as I got one of the Spectrum chairs right there. Uh,
Love
your
it.
dad came up. I started right before I saw your dad. My introduction was WWF, and well, I'll get to your dad in a second.
Okay.
But my introduction to WWF, ironically enough, was around Philly sports. I lived over the bridge in Gloucester City, New Jersey. I was about this 82, so I was about 8 or 9. And I go to my next door neighbor, my friend Sean. I was like, "Hey, you want to come over watch the Phillies game?" He's like, "I can't. I'm watching professional wrestling." I'm like, "What is professional wrestling?" I say, "Come over to my house. Let's watch professional wrestling over at my house." I just wanted to hang.
Yeah.
He comes over and it's WWF. And the match I remember is Rick Martel, Tony Garea versus Mr. Fuji, Mr. Saito, as Saito and Fuji win the tag belts. And that was the bug that bit me. And I would watch every day, all day, every day, annoy my family with it. And then I learned, graduated on the magazines and stuff like that. And then, like 83, 84, your dad, starts making appearances on WWF TV. He had done Madison Square Garden, but I never got the MSG shows. I watched him and Tiger Mask later on. But to watch him, come through the screen, he looked like somebody from Philadelphia, just like a hardworking type guy. Like,
Yeah.
that's why we latched onto him. That's why the British Bulldogs were always over in Philly, because they're just like a blue collar type tag team. And your dad looked like a blue collar kind of guy, just like he wasn't happy with, just being regular. He had to work hard, and he did work hard. And that's why we fell in love with him. But, 82, I started watching because a neighbor friend wanted to watch pro wrestling instead of Philadelphia Phillies. And that's the bug that bit me. And here I am in 2026, at the age of 52, still a fan.
Yeah. What was it like, the shows at the Spectrum, and did you see any cool concerts there?
Oh my God. I was a late bloomer to going to the Spectrum. In the Philadelphia area, we're a little bit spoiled. Um, we like,
Lots of venues?
yeah, well, we would have Spectrum Wrestling on a Saturday night, but then the show would air the next morning on we have a local cable channel called Prism, Philadelphia regional something 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 something. And they would show the Spectrum Wrestling the next day. So if you went to the show Saturday night, you could watch, Spectrum Wrestling Sunday. And I was kind of spoiled by just, watching it on Prism the next day. But
Yeah.
I
Cheaper
started
that way, I suppose.
a little bit,
Yeah.
even though by, those standards, the tickets weren't too bad back then. But
Yeah.
my first time going to the Spectrum was a concert. I went to go see Van Halen in
Oh, wow.
1988 on the OU 812 tour. And
That would have been awesome.
oh, it was. The Spectrum itself was a character onto itself, to the point where, you could go online and just buy like a Spectrum T-shirt because people just endear themselves to that building. You know, eventually when they built the Wells Fargo Center, and it was at the time it was called the Court State Center. Locals just called it Spectrum 2 because that's all. It was our first major arena in Philadelphia that was built in the '60s. It's all we really knew. So like when they built something right next door, we're like, oh, that's Spectrum 2.
Yeah.
I don't care what they're calling it at Spectrum.
Yeah.
But
Easiest way. That's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. But
Do you
yeah,
have a favorite type of music
dude, right before I
or
hopped on
favorite
here,
band?
Van Halen.
Van Halen.
It's Van Halen's number one. Everybody's fighting for second place. I love Van Halen. Last night I was jamming out to some Black Crowes. They just came out with 2 new songs, so I can't wait to hear those. Black Crowes, Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains.
Black.
Uh,
Very
it's
80s, 90s.
it's very 80s. I was born 73. Kind of remember the 70s, but 80s is where those were my formative years between professional wrestling and rock and roll.
Yeah.
If you saw my bedroom in the 80s, one wall was heavy metal, one wall was professional wrestling with all the Pro Wrestling Illustrated you know fold outs that you would have in a magazine. And I was the wrestling guy in school. Nobody, I might have been the only wrestling fan, but like, when other people start catching up to me, they would go to me to ask about certain things. Like I was the professor
Yeah.
or something like that. But
Did you
you know,
get to indulge in the Seattle grunge scene at all? Like those types of bands, like with
oh, I
Alice
love
in Chains, and did you go to Seattle for live shows?
unfortunately not.
No.
I've been to Seattle for
Yeah.
WWF, but never really got a chance to stay. And I plan on fixing that. I have friends who live in Seattle, and
Yeah.
I have a dear friend of mine named Danny Bland. He's a tour manager. He lives out in Seattle, and I tried to plan a trip out to Seattle for like an Eagles game, Eagles Seahawks, just to
Yeah.
hang out with him. It lined up, but
Yeah, my best friend lives there too, so she's a big Seahawks fan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Seahawks fans are. I look. I'm a diehard Philly fan, diehard Eagles fans, but real respect's real. They're really good fans out there in
Yeah.
Seattle. I love fans. I just went to Green Bay for a game. Their fans are pretty diehard.
Yeah.
Uh, God forbid if the Eagles and Bills make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know if those a stadium can hold those two fan bases at the same time, because Buffalo and Philly are a lot alike. Both blue collar towns and diehards. We invented table breaking. They've copied it. We use wooden tables. They use plastic tables. So there might be a little bit of a rivalry there between who's crazier.
Oh yeah, you got your Sunday cut out for you tomorrow.
Yeah. Fortunately,
You get to go to the game, you said.
me and Mrs. Meanie scored a pair of tickets to the Eagles 49ers game, which
Awesome.
I hope I'm not the jinx, because we primarily go to road games as a way to go see the Eagles and see a new city.
Yeah.
We went to see the Eagles at Wembley in the UK.
Wow.
We've been to Buffalo. Uh, we saw the best game we've seen was Eagles Rams when the Eagles the Super Bowl year Unfortunately, Carson Wentz got hurt that game, but that was probably one of the best games I've ever witnessed. With unfortunate injury, but they won the NFC East title in that game. But what a magical run that year was too, as well. But yeah, we're going to see the 49ers Eagles this Sunday. Like I said, hopefully
You
I'm
guys
not.
have snow in your forecast, or is the weather going to be okay?
What today is the day we're supposed to get the crappy weather.
Yeah,
When I knew the Eagles were making the playoffs. I was like, man, I hope they play on Saturday because I like Saturday football.
yeah,
Uh, but when they said Sunday, and I looked at the weather, we're supposed to get like really bad weather today. It's a little cloudy now, but I
yeah.
think the weather's going to break our way tomorrow. So and
Perfect.
it's going to be like 50 degrees. So I might, 50 degrees in Philly, you might as well it's like beach weather, because it's been in the 20s. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'll wear my tank top and shorts. Why not? But uh,
Just maybe don't rock the crop top.
why not? Why not? It
Right,
wouldn't be
right.
it wouldn't be the craziest thing you saw in that stadium during the
True.
Eagles game.
Yeah, they wouldn't even bat an eyelash.
Oh no, it's like ECW did a show. We did a show in New Orleans for October. We did November to Remember down there, but the night before was Halloween. I went to Bourbon Street in my wrestling gear of the half shirt, Daisy Dukes. The people are like, "Oh, nice outfit."
Yeah.
Yeah. You go.
That's hilarious. So
I,
you first trained with wrestling with Al Snow?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
How did that come about?
so it was a long journey. It was a long journey. Um, and your dad had something to do with that as well as far as influence. I'd always wanted to be a professional wrestler, and everybody thought we were like, ah, that's cute, because as a kid grew up as severe asthmatic, and
Right.
I couldn't really play in the other kids' reindeer games, and I wasn't out at recess. I mean, I could be out at recess, but I wasn't really doing
Like
much.
running laps. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so I'm following wrestling. I graduate from the After Mags to the newsletters, and my first try at professional wrestling, the Monster Factory here in on the East Coast, we're having tryouts the day after WrestleMania 8. So me and my grandfather drove over to Paulsboro, New Jersey from Atlantic City, and about me and it's like 12 guys showed up. Me and 11 or 12 other guys showed up to try out. Headbanger Thrasher was the one giving the tryout. Larry Sharp was there, and the Dennis Corluzzo, who was a great promoter, God rest his soul, and God rest Larry Sharp, who just recently passed away. They were there overseeing the tryouts, and out of like the 12 people who tried out, me and like two or three other guys got called into the office to talk about potentially joining. And it was something I kept in my back pocket. Something I wanted to finish high school. So, but in the meantime, I had gone on a trip to Memphis, our fan trip down to Memphis, and we were on the bus going to a show somewhere, and people would bring their VHS tapes,
Yeah.
and I saw the British Bulldogs against Joe and Dean Malenko from All Japan,
Wow.
and I was already a fan of the British Bulldogs. I'll show you. I've just found a photo of me in a British Bulldog shirt from like the early '80s, and I was like, who are these Malenko guys? And they're able to hang with the Bulldogs. And I found out Malenko's had a school. So I was in the newsletters, the Malenko schools
Yeah.
doing something. So I wrote to the Malenko school, and a woman named Phyllis Lee wrote back. Phyllis Lee, who was a former wrestler, helping out with the great Malenko, Larry, run the school. So we start corresponding. I started working after high school. I started working in casinos. I would take half my paycheck, half would go to the house for bills and groceries, and the other half I put in a sock drawer to save for tuition. So as we're talking, I sent him I was like, I'm going to go to the Malenko school. So I sent my tuition, and then we started
Where
about.
was the school?
I'm sorry.
Where was the school located?
I'm sorry, Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Down in
I
Tampa.
wasn't sure where they were from, so
Yeah, yeah. Larry was huge in the southeast, and they had a school where they trained 1, 2, 3 Kid, um, Kane. trained there. They trained a bunch of great wrestlers, Bobby Blaze. So I was all ready to go down there, and Phyllis was like, "Yeah, well, you can, they have a one room efficiency. You can rent for $600." I'm like, and then 93, 94, $600 to rent a place was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was renting a house for like maybe $500, 3-bedroom house for $500 back in the 90s. So one room, I was like, for $600. So she starts talking to me. She's like, "Well, have you ever heard of a wrestler named Al Snow?" I go, "Yeah, actually I have." Because Al was starting to make a name. Al had been around since 82, and he was just starting to break through with, he had a series of matches with Sabu that was like really making headlines on the independent circuit. And I was like, "Yeah, I heard of Al." Well, Al's in Ohio, uh, same tuition, and you get to live at the school. It's like $100 a month. I'm like, I live in the school,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
Yeah. Don't even have to drive anywhere.
yeah, I was kind of spoiled, just but day after WrestleMania 10, it's so great how most of my life I could just Google. Oh, when
Yeah.
did I do that? Oh,
Right.
day after WrestleMania 10. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the date.
Yeah.
So I drive out to Ohio and train with Al, or I meet Al for the first time, and he pulls me into the office and gives me the speech. "Hey, this is what I expect of you. This is how things are run." Absolutely perfect. Next day, I get in the ring, go to take my first bumps, and it was off to the races, and it was a big gamble, because later on in my career, I've started hearing stories about how guys would show up for the first day of training, and the ring was gone, and they had given all their money, and people show up to an empty building. So here I am driving 13 hours to Ohio from New Jersey for a man I've never met, with a woman I only know from the telephone.
Yeah.
And
Wild
writing letter. Yeah, God knows what I was walking into, but it was the best gamble of my life, and I'm forever grateful that I found Phyllis Lee, and I found Phyllis Lee through the Malenko's, because the Malenko's wrestled the Bulldogs. So
And you found it all out of the magazine, is how that started. I
pretty
love
much,
those magazines.
dude, I still keep them. I still have a stack
Yeah,
of them.
that's
Excuse me,
awesome.
like a little sippy poo of coffee here.
No problem. I'm on to water. I feel like I have a little bit of a cold. Our weather's been it's been really cold here, obviously, but now it's really warming up. So headaches and yeah, all that fun stuff.
Who knew? Just like, it's that time of season, where people get sick, around the holidays, because everybody's
Yeah, that's right.
in a crowd of people. But
And mom's always the healthiest. And my daughter was sick this week, but now maybe mom's getting it. So it's my turn.
yeah, it's like a hot potato, so to
Yeah.
speak. Your turn,
Yeah.
and then you'll
So
get back to them. And
did you come up with the name Blue Meanie, and what does it represent?
the, they always say the best nicknames are the ones you don't give to yourself. Um, when I first when I first started training with Al, and he started, I started training, for I had my first match in Canada.
Oh, wow. Wait,
uh,
do you remember where in Canada?
Wallaceburg, Ontario, Canada. So I was like, who am I? What am I going to be?
Yeah.
And then, this is so dumb. In high school, I was talking to a girl, and she said, it was a girl I had a crush on, and she said I looked like the actor Emilio Estevez, which I don't see. I've never seen it, but hey, she said it. All right. So
It's like the blue eyes, I think.
maybe,
Yeah,
maybe,
I could kinda see it.
but thank you. So I was like, "Oh, I'll be Brian Estevez for my first match," and that stuck for one match. I was like, "There's no ring to that," no pun intended. And then I became Brian St. John for a second, and then I was going to start working for Sabu, uh, in the Detroit area. Sabu started running shows, and he wanted to have a card of different wrestlers, because everybody used the same guys, and he wanted to use some of Al's students. And one of his protege, who also trained with Al, a guy named John Pee Wee Moore. We're sitting around in school one night. He's like, "Brian St. John ain't cutting it. You got to think of another name to work for Sabu." I was like, "All right." So looking around, and we had cassette tapes back then, long before MP3s, and there's a Henry Rollins cassette tape. I was like, how about Brian Rollins? And we're like, that's it. So I was Brian Rollins for a little bit, and then the Zebra Kid Brian Rollins, because I
Yeah,
found a
so
pair
I
of
saw your Brian Rollins t-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, but I thought it was like a Seth Rollins thing.
That's
Could be.
funny. That's funny because I'll joke that somehow in the past life we're related somehow, but yeah, it's Brian Rollins, and just trying to find my way. So I moved. There was a point where I was like, you've been here for a year. I lived at the school for a year, and I said I was spoiled because Al would do 2 sessions a day. He'd come in at like 9 in the morning. He'd train from 9 in the morning till noon, and then he would go do whatever Al had to do with the family and stuff like that. But he would come back around 7 o'clock, and we do a session from 7 to 10 because different people will come from different areas. People will come down from Canada, Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tried to accommodate everybody, but I lived in the school, so I did both sessions. Yeah. But I was there for a year, and I was like, it's time to, leave the nest, go home, learn how to get yourself booked, hustle, learn how to work. Absolutely. So I moved back. I did 3 shows that were uh, monumental to my career: a show in Baltimore, Maryland, a show in West Virginia, and a show in Pittsburgh for a promoter named Norm Connors. Uh, Norm Connors was huge to my career because he was like the first guy outside the Al Snow bubble that booked me. I went to a show with Dan Severn and Phyllis just to hang out, and Norm put me on one of his shows. So we kind of bonded. So when I moved back to Philly, I'm still going to Pittsburgh. And on those 3 shows, Baltimore, West Virginia, and Pittsburgh, were Raven and Stevie Richards. And I guess they watched my matches and they took a liking to me. And it wasn't until like the 3rd show where Raven came up and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this thing with Stevie Richards. Stevie's my sidekick, my lackey. We want to have a lackey to a lackey, like the Russian dolls. One fits into the other."
Yes.
So he's like, we want to do that. We have a guy in mind, but he can't wrestle. He's a big guy, can't wrestle. And the guy they had in mind made me look small, but he couldn't work. He wasn't a wrestler.
Yeah.
They saw me wrestle. They saw me do the moonsault, and they're like, "Hey, you want to do it?" I was like, "I'll be in ECW, right?" They're like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
Fine.
Let's go.
So I debut. I go, I go start going to shows, making my face familiar with the locker room. October 95, kind of debut as Stevie's fan in the crowd. And Stevie was wrestling Johnny Grunge, and we did a little shtick, before the match. The footage for that show disappears because there was a accident with fire, and they're afraid to be in suit. So everything on that show, except for like maybe one thing, aired on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm in limbo. So me, Stevie, and Raven go back out to work for Norm in Pittsburgh. We're driving home in a blizzard, and Raven goes, "Hey kid, I got an idea for you. You ever see the Yellow Submarine from the Beatles?" I go, "Yeah, when I was a kid. It was a cartoon." He's like, "Remember the Blue Meanies?" I was like, "Vaguely." He's like, "You're gonna be the Blue Meanie. You're gonna love it." He's selling me on it, right?
You're gonna love it.
Yeah. You want to paint your whole body blue, but just do your hair, do your beard, and it's like Bobby and ECW, right? He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, I'm in. You don't have to sell me on this, So we go to his place, take a nap, wake up, go to Blockbuster Video, rent the Yellow Submarine, and just watch the parts where the Blue Meanie character's in. And then he starts testing me on the character. "Hey, Blue Meanie, do a promo on toilet paper. Do a promo on this and that." In character, I had to do a promo. And November to Remember 95 comes around, and I'm back in the front row as Stevie's fan. Half shirt, Daisy Dukes, blue hair, painted on glasses like the Blue Meanie character. And Stevie comes out, and I present him with a gift, which he opens up, and it's a half shirt. It says "Flock of Seagulls," great 80s band with
Yeah.
parts, and we hug. And when Stevie brings me over to Guardrail, which is very ceremonial to me, my debut in ECW, because I used to go to those ECW shows as a fan. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he's bringing me from over to guard from where he's bringing me from a fan over to Guardrail into being a wrestler is very ceremonial to how my
No
career
kidding. Yeah. Such a legendary building.
legendary building, another building like the Spectrum, that was his own character,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Much like the Spectrum, but I debuted for ECW coming over to Rail, debuted for WWF coming over to Rail. So
Nice. I love that.
if you made a movie about my life, you'd be like, oh, that's just too corny. That's not realistic. Debut for ECW in Philly, debut for WWF in Philly,
Wow.
WrestleMania in Philly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're not leaving Philly.
no, I'm
Good luck.
yeah, bury me in South Philly. There's a song called "Bury Me in South Philly," which I wish I could remember who sang it, but
Oh, I'll
it's
look it up.
fitting. It's fitting.
So are you actually a Beatles fan, or were you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was a late bloomer with the
Yeah.
Beatles. Never hated them, but I would hear them on the radio, and we have here in Philly that every Sunday there would be a show called Breakfast with the Beatles, and you could go walk down the street and people will have their windows open. You hear Beatles on the radio and stuff like that.
Any
Um,
plans to go to Liverpool when you're over in England to see anything Beatles related?
I would love to. I would love to. I've been to the UK many times. Um, been to Manchester where we're going to meet in a couple weeks. Been to London. Been to Doncaster. Been to Cardiff. Need to go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
I just did a DNA test, and a lot of my I'm part Irish, Scottish, and I think Welsh, which is
Oh,
like right below down there. So,
my name is Welsh.
pardon?
My name is Welsh.
There,
Bronwyn.
there you go. There you go.
But I am
So,
not.
but it's awesome. I definitely need to go see some Beatles stuff. The nightclub's still there, that where they've have
Yeah, I would love to go. I just don't know if I'll have the time this trip, of course.
but that's the magic about travel, being able
Yeah.
to travel and go see new things. But Mrs. Meanie's coming over.
I
So,
actually looked because Liverpool is my soccer team, football team.
okay, awesome.
But I looked up if there's going to be any games when we're over there, and there isn't. So, well, there is a game, not Liverpool, but on the Saturday, and we'll be at the convention. So,
Gotcha.
it's not going to work out
Yeah. Yeah, but it gives you an excuse to go back.
for sure. So, Blue World Order first started. Was it supposed to be like just kind of a one-off skit that evening that turned into a faction, or did you guys know it would stick?
Oh, we had no idea what it was gonna be. And that just came out of that natural evolution of me and Stevie were Raven's sidekicks. And one night we go there's an ECW arena show. We go pick up Raven, drive into the arena from his place, and he goes, "Tonight I want you guys to come out and call yourselves the Fabulous Ones." We're like, "What? Like the tag team from Memphis?" Yeah. And he wanted us to start doing parodies of wrestlers, but we're just ourselves kind of thing. So that night we introduced ourselves as the Fabulous One. I was Stan, he was Stevie, or whatever. But the parodies evolved. He was Baron von Stevie. I was Colonel Meanie, like Colonel De Beers from the AWA. I became Blue Dust.
Yes.
And once Supernova became part of our faction, we started doing multiple. Like I thought our top end of all parodies was going to be when we came out as Kiss one night.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you watch that, at the time we came out as Kiss, and if you look in the audience, you look to the left-hand side, you see a kid in an orange Taz shirt. It's a young Tony Khan from AEW.
Oh my God. Was this at the ECW arena?
ECW Arena, 1996.
Which Kiss member were you? Or were you guys all kind of your own?
I was Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons, Meanie Simmons, and
of course.
And we needed a fourth, so we got a local Philly wrestling veteran, Devious Donnie Allen. He was Peter Chris. So I was Meanie. I was Meanie Simmons. Stevie was Paul Stanley, Stevie Stanley, whatever. Nova was Ace Frehley. Donnie Allen was Peter Criss, and all the guitars we used. We had like guitars and stuff. Those were Donnie Allen's personal guitars we used for that. And I thought that was it. I thought there's no way we could top this.
Yeah.
So we're doing parodies of wrestlers, and I was Blue Dust, and we're always doing things, as a homage, like a pay tribute. So what's the hottest thing in wrestling at the time? The New World Order. And Steve was a little hesitant. He was like, I don't want to get heat. I was like, brother, you're not going to get heat. And Raven knows the NWO guys. We're not going to get heat. So it's just a matter of figuring out who's going to be who. I was like, let's go in size order. Stevie's the tallest. He could be Kevin Nash. And me and Stevie, I did a parody. I was Shawn Michaels. He was Diesel one time. I was like, you've already played Diesel. You could be Kevin Nash. And I was like, all right, whatever. I was, the blue guy, the bad, instead of bad guys, the blue guy, Uzo Blue Cheesemo, Scott Hall, and Nova was Hogan, and I was always rocking the airbrush shirts. So went out, got the BWO shirts airbrushed, it kind of looked like it. And we thought that was going to be a one night deal. And we went out, we did it. And we came back through the locker room, and Todd Gordon, the man who created ECW, I love Paul Heyman. Everybody associates Paul Heyman with ECW, but don't forget about Todd Gordon. He sunk his money in first. So Todd Gordon goes, I think we got something here. I think it's going to be more than one time. And we're like, okay, sure. And if you watch that show, it's November to Remember 96. Excuse me. We had come out later in the show as something totally different as well. We just did the BWO, but we came out and we did live play-by-play as announcers over a Ravens match, and we're wearing half suit and ties, cut in half. Like we cut the suit jackets in half, dress shirts in half.
A lot of wasted outfits.
Yeah. Thank God for thrift stores.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. I was a little bit Chris Farley-ish, fat guy in a little coat, But and then come back to the locker room. Ty goes, I think we got something here. I think they saw dollar signs with the t-shirts, to be quite honest, but
nice.
They started printing up the BWO shirts, and we start coming out and like running, distraction for different things. And we start inducting people into the BWO. Like New Jack was kind enough to actually put on a BWO shirt. I think a couple other people did too as well. But the BWO thing was the launching point for me, Stevie, and Nova to kind of break off from the mind control of Raven, because Raven had mind control over us. We kind of broke off from him, and that was Stevie's platform to become a serious contender for the ECW World Title, and he main evented in our very first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, in a 3-way match to see who would challenge for the world title. So the BWO was, even though it was a parody, it was very significant to Stevie, Nova, and myself, because we kind of broke off from Raven, became our own entity, so to speak.
Yeah. What an amazing story.
Crazy
journey.
Yeah, it's crazy how it works out. Everything's about instincts. Everything's about timing. I'd sent in my, to jump back a second, I'd set my money in to go to wrestling school. I agreed to go to Al Snow School. And me and my mom, we both worked in the casinos in Atlantic City. I worked at Trump Plaza. She worked at Taj Mahal. But we would walk down, catch this little shuttle bus that would take us to the casinos. And we're walking to work. And we're stopped at a red light, waiting for the light to turn green. I turn to my mom and go, I'm going in tonight and giving my 2 weeks notice. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I got to do this.
Yeah.
If I hadn't had that epiphany while I was standing there at that red light to, go into work, quit, move away, God knows, I go to Al Snow School. Then I discover, I start working for Sabu. Working for Sabu is, where I met Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer and Taz, because Paul Heyman and Sabu shaved my head on one of Sabu's shows. So I go back to Philly, meet Raven Stevie. They bring me in ECW. Paulie remembers me from shaving my head for Sabu. And then just things just fall in line. Just my timeline is just very
Trust it.
happenstance.
Really
Yeah.
trust it.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it came from, but it worked out. And here I am. And it's 2026. We're still talking about the BWO. I got the little BWO commemorative belt, the posters and stuff. But
cool. I know I was looking at all your merchandise and I'm like so many different things you could be and parodies you could do. Actually, my shirt, you can't really see it, but I have a My Little Pony Eagle shirt on.
Tremendous.
I thought it was kind of, suiting for you, kind of a parody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, if I see anything in the wild, because we always have like street vendors out here selling.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, this was
I'll bring you something over for Manchester or something.
T Public. That's where I got this. T Public.
Yeah.
What's your wildest backstage story during ECW times? If you could pick one.
Backstage or back at the hotel at the Travel Lodge?
Whatever. Yeah.
Just the Travel Lodge is its own legend. We called it Cylinder of Sin because the building was spherical. And
that's in Philly.
Yeah. It's something totally different now, and it's way too nice now to be what it used to be. But craziest story. I mean, like I said, when I debuted, we had an accident with fire.
Yeah.
And I done my deal. I debuted and Johnny Grunt smacked me. I run out the building by going to the locker room, and the fire incident happens, and Terry Funk gets burnt up, and he walks through the curtain, and he does Terry Funk does this specific walk I call the Terry Funk Death March, where like he's all bloody. He's just walking around. He picks up a ceiling fan with one of those huge not ceiling fan, floor fan, where it's got the big base up. Yeah. He just picks it up and just throws it like nothing. And I'm trying to think, because we've been at a ton of riots too. Let me tell you about my first riot. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We didn't have a riot at ECW.
I can't say I've ever rioted, so tell me what it's all about.
We would run Philly at the ECW arena, but we have little satellite arenas in the Philly area. One being in Plymouth, meaning there's a building called the Lulu Temple, which we ran for a while, but eventually got sold, so we had to find a new building. Pardon me. So we find this National Guard Army right down the street in Plymouth meeting. We had our one and only show there this night. And it was the night before Halloween, which was Mischief Night, which means, police are out in force looking for kids throwing eggs at houses or toilet paper in trees or whatever you do on Mischief Night. But we're running our show there. And the main event was a multi-tag team match between the Dudleys, the Gangsters, Eliminators, Balls, Mahoney, Axel Rotten. And Balls and Axel are making their way to the ring. And this whole night, it was right near this local college. And there was these college kids in the crowd. And they were rowdy all night. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. They're a little obnoxious, but, so are we. So who are we to judge? But Balls and Axel are making their entrance, and they're all wearing white T-shirts. These college kids, for some reason. So, and one kid had a shirt that said "Fight Me," FITEME. All right, his parents are proud of that college. They spent that.
Go back to school.
Balls and Axel are doing their entrance, and Axel goes over. They're rowdy. He's like, "Yeah." The fans grab Axel, pull him half over the rail and start pounding on him.
Oh my gosh.
So the guys in the ring see this. Somebody goes and somebody from the locker room goes, fight. Locker room empties. Guys from the ring hop the rail. And it's just a full-on brawl. And, Big Dick Dudley's going through the crowd, just mowing people down. And those guys are just swinging, boom, boom, boom. And so Mischief Night, National Guard Army riot. The police, the call goes out to the police. They send a riot squad, the local riot squad for Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. They show up, lights blazing, and my favorite story to come out of it. And Tommy Dreamer's told the story a million times and never gets old. Tommy's outside trying to be the goodwill ambassador. Hey, there's nothing to see here. Sorry, folks. So he's trying to, talk to the cops. In his ear hears somebody go, "I'll take the dogs." And it's Tracy Smothers wearing nothing but a towel because he ran out of the shower. Shampoo's running down his face. And he starts shadow boxing the canine dogs like, and Tommy Dreamer goes, "Tracy, no!" Grabs him and brings him back into the building before,
Oh my
they're
God.
going to tase him or mace him or whatever. He's ready to fight these dogs.
That's so
And that's not the first time Tracy Smothers has done a run and, ready to fight the fans in a towel. And years later, CM Punk kind of paid tribute to Tracy Smothers. I think they had a show at Madison Square Garden. Somebody was getting beat down, and CM Punk ran down the aisle in wearing a towel and a, a shower cap and all that. And that was a tribute to Tracy Smothers, which
okay.
Tracy Smothers, one of the unsung heroes of ECW, because he would take a lot of young guys under his wing and get us in the ring and train us and stuff like that. But that was probably one of the crazier stories from ECW. There's plenty of near riots. Dudley's would incite riots. A lot. And there was a riot in Staten Island, New York. I remember that one as well. Not as well as the Plymouth Meeting one, but the one that, the reason why the Plymouth Meeting one sticks out to me, and Plymouth Meeting is like a 15, 20-minute drive from downtown Philly. The next morning, we're leaving to go to Queens, New York, and we got the local news radio on KYW News Radio here in Philly. And we're listening, and they did a thing. Riot breaks out at local wrestling show, ECW. We're like, we made KYW news. Yes.
Yeah.
KYW was always the channel you go to. So breaking news. Let's listen to KYW, And so we made it. So we knew we had, I have friends who work at KYW to this day. I was like, can you please find that tape?
Yeah.
Mrs. Meanie just recently found the newspaper article about the riot and posted it. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite riots.
That's funny. Good times. So growing up, you watched WWF live at the Spectrum.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're both like coughing here. Winter. So everyone at that time was kind of jacked on steroids. Did that give you kind of a vision of like how you thought you needed to look or move?
Growing up, guys were on the gas, but I as a kid, I never really knew what steroids were till later on.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer of, I don't care what anybody does as long as it doesn't negatively affect another person. You want to do steroids, all right, as long as you can handle your business. If you want to smoke weed, smoke weed, but don't don't do anything that's going to cost somebody else negatively.
Yeah.
As long as you're minding your own business. So
Yeah.
watching wrestle, I fell in love with the big guys. I like the muscle bound guys and all that, but I was a big fan of guys like Terry Gordy.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite that stood out to you?
Bam Bam Bigelow stood out to me
Oh yeah,
because
he's great.
he was an agile big guy. I knew I was never going to be Charles Atlas. Because I would read the magazines or the Charles Atlas ads of, become this muscle man. Excuse me. And growing up asthmatic, I really couldn't do anything until like high school. We found a really good lung specialist. He got me on the proper medication, and my lungs started to get a little stronger. And then when I went to Al Snow School, my lungs got way better. But in the meantime, who do I idolize? And Bam Bam Bigelow was the guy. Especially, he's from Jersey. He's from Asbury Park. He trained at the Monster Factory, right over the bridge from Philadelphia. He was on local TV. We had a local talk show, AM Philadelphia, or no, it was there's this guy named Richard Bay who would go on to have a show up in New York, but he was a local morning guy in Philly. He would always have wrestling on. I'm watching Bam Bam Bigelow wrestle in studio on Channel 3 in Philadelphia. And this Bam Bam Bigelow guy is amazing. He's doing cartwheels and all that stuff. I was like, if I'm ever going to be a wrestler, I'd love to be like Bam Bam Bigelow. So it was a blessing when I went to ECW and got to share a locker room with Bam
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah,
You
he was
know, Bam Bam approached me one time in the locker room in ECW. He's like, look, and, and this is why I say Charles Atlas as well. He's like, look, I know you're never going to be Charles Atlas. You're never going to be you don't want to kill your gimmick of being this, muscle bound guy, but being a big guy, just go to the gym and ride the bike for 45 minutes. You always said, have a strong set of legs, make sure your wheels are strong, don't work for being in a match for like 20 minutes and your legs feel like there's like spaghetti, so
yeah. They hold up your whole body.
yeah. So he went out of his way to give me that advice. And it stuck with me. It's just, it's little pieces of advice I still pass down to the next generation. But yeah, guys doing, and when I was in high school, they started having the steroid trials. And locally, Dr. George Zahorian, Harrisburg's like 100 miles from here. So I was on our local news here in Philadelphia about the steroid trials here with George Zahorian, and then later on with Vince, with the feds. Never really affected me. Never.
Yeah, you're kind of a generation below that. So
yeah, it never bothered me. It never bothered me. I was like, they want to start. Who cares? As long as they're not, stealing for somebody's, the mom's handbag to go buy for their,
yeah.
As long as you're paying for it, you're working for it, you're paying for it.
Yeah,
And wrestling, it never bothered me, But
is there anyone that you worked with that just oozed charisma? Like, who was the most charismatic?
and there's so many guys.
So many
guys. But and a lot of wrestlers will tell you they learned a lot from Tracy Smothers, man. I'll always sing his praises. Only because he was there when I used to work every when I was Brian Rollins and still living at Al's. I would wrestle every Thursday in Indianapolis, Indiana for a guy named Mike Samples. Tracy Smothers there every week. He would pull me aside. He goes, "Oh man, you're a big boy like Terry Gordy." He loved Terry Gordy. And he comes to ECW. We're sharing a locker room again. And just to watch him work the crowd and work them up into a frenzy, there's so much there to learn. He would work in IWA Mid-South for Ian Rotten, and he's sharing a locker room with, Punk and Cabana. And he was just like off the charts to where if you get into a locker room with anybody who shared a locker room with, I could spit out a Tracy Smothers line and somebody else will finish it. Hey man, what's your deal? Why do I hate you? You'd be in the car with Tracy Smothers driving. He points to a field. Cal's like, "Hey man, there's your family." You're like, "What the hell?" It's just different Tracy quips and mannerism and catchphrases that we would work in the match. I implore anybody to go watch some Tracy Smothers, promos or matches from ECW or anywhere. I mean, the guy wrestled a bear, so, that bear beat me to death, brother. Just as far as charisma, character, knowing how to work, riling people up, and not only entertaining the wrestling fans, but entertaining the boys as well.
Yeah.
Tracy's mother's one of the best.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think is more valuable, natural athleticism or ability to talk and cut promos? And what is harder to teach?
I mean, athleticism is great. In-ring ability is great, but ultimately, you got to talk people into the building. You got to connect with the fans.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, connecting with the fans, getting over. And people have this false sense of what getting over means. Getting a pop it doesn't mean you're over. It just means they like you.
Yeah.
Having people come up to you however many years later and telling you things you did that you forgot about means you made some kind of connection, So, while I wasn't the best athlete, I wasn't, going to have the 5-star match. I could go out there and do things and interact with the crowd and, do a little bit of improvisation to make people feel like that's what all fans,
Make them believe.
wrestling fan want to believe, and they also want to feel like they're part of the show without overdoing it.
Yeah.
A babyface making a comeback, hits a big body slam. Just look at the crowd. Just you don't have to go, hey, cheer for me. Just go, and the crowd will come up, and they want that eye contact. Like, yeah, do it, because I was that fan too. I'm like, yeah, like. When the baby face in the ring going 5 more minutes, I'm like, yeah, 5 more minutes. You could be the greatest athlete in the world, have 5-star matches, and still not connect
Yeah.
to the audience.
Some people can't talk or get that eye contact or
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Guerrero.
behind you that way.
Yeah, Eddie Guerrero was like the perfect guy who connect with the fans and still do the 5-star matches. You know, just I'd rather be the guy who can connect with the fans and learn. There's a difference between being a good wrestler and a good worker. I'd rather be a good worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What style wrestling do you gravitate towards?
Man, I always say wrestling should be like a buffet. There should be a little bit. Same with my musical taste. Some days I listen to Slayer, some days I'm listening to Britney Spears.
You're like me. I'm like, I love heavy metal, but then I have this pop side of me, and I'm like, what's wrong with me?
Oh, nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You've listened to 80s pop, man. Or yacht rock for that matter. So some music that people like, you listen to? I listen to it. What's it to you? But same with wrestling. Some days I'm watching Bill Watts' UWF. Some days I'm watching AWA. Some days I'm watching Mid-Atlantic or whatever. But for me, Bill Watts' UWF was my ECW. Everybody comes up to me and says, in the land of WWE, WWF, ECW was this little thing that people gravitated to because it felt gritty, it felt dirty, it felt like you're watching a snuff film. Like it was something you shouldn't be watching, but you're watching anyway. Bill Watts' UWF was old school wrestling, but it was hard hitting. And every week they went off TV, they left you with a cliffhanger. And this is pre-internet, where you had no idea what the next week's show was going to be. You're like, folks, Jim Ross, folks, it's breaking down in Tulsa. We gotta go. And you're like, no, what's going to happen? And Jim Crockett promotions, NWA was good for that too. The main event would be going on. They would go into the ring as the credits are rolling. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah, I will always love WWF. It would be, that's the bug that bit me. I love Gorilla Monsoon.
80s WWF.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan as the voice of, soundtrack to my fanhood. But there's stuff I love. I was watching WWF, and then look, you're scanning the newspaper for TV listens. What's this Worldwide Wrestling thing? And come on, and there's Ric Flair, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is a whole new different flavor that I'm not used to, but I like it, kind of thing. So, and then we start getting AWA on ESPN here in the States, and world class, wrestling. Philly was very fortunate. We got a lot of good wrestling, like on syndicated or whatever. It just depends on the day. It depends on the day,
So after ECW, you went to WW. Was it WWE at the time, right?
WWF. Yeah.
Or it was F?
Yeah.
I can't remember when it switched. So then you're.
So to be fair.
Yeah. So you were doing the Blue Dust gimmick. Do you think a storyline like that would fly today?
Well, I initially went to WWF to be a part of the faction called the Job Squad with Al Snow. A very cool story. I'm working for ECW. I get home and there's a voicemail from Al Snow on my answer machine when we had answer machines. Hey, Meanie, give me a call when you get a chance. So I wake up, I get home at 3 a.m, wake up next day, give Al a call. He goes, hey, are you under contract to ECW? I go, no. He goes, are you, how loyal? Are you, you're loyal to Paul, right? I was like, yeah, but what's up? What's up? He's like, there's a chance to go to WWF and be a part of the job squad. Would you want to do it? Yeah. So I was like, okay, you're going to get a call. All right. So I hang up. Hour later, I get a call. It's Bruce Pritchard. Hey, Brian, need your information, Social Security, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Give him my information. He goes, all right, see you at the building. Wells Fargo Center, Core State, then Core State Center. See you there 11 a.m. All right. Hang up. And the only way I could describe that phone call was like if you watched the winning lottery number come in, like you're watching the lottery and all your numbers come through and you just realize, oh my God, my life's about to change. Not that it didn't change with ECW, it did change, but the goal was WWF,
Yeah,
So
always.
I leave. Me, my mom, and my grandma lived in a one-story apartment in South Philly, and I walk from my bedroom 20 feet to the living room, and I look them right now and go, put all the bills in my name. You're like, what? What are you talking about? Because I had been doing okay contributing to the house, but I was like, put all the bills in my name. They're like, why? I was like, I just signed with the WWF. And my grandma grabs a chair right next to her because like her knees almost, and my mom goes, oh, and it just
that gave me goosebumps.
That was the best day of my life. Telling my folks,
Yeah,
because they were supporting my wrestling habit. I wasn't making much money on the indies.
of course.
ECW, I was doing okay, and then thanks to Bam Bam Bigelow encouraging me to ask for raises, start making more money. We start running more shows a week. We were doing 4 shows a week by then, but to make life-changing money was awesome. So I debuted for WWE, jumping out of the crowd to help Dwayne Gill against Christian. And we had a nice little run with the Job Squad. They inducted me. I wasn't officially in, but they officially inducted me in Vancouver at Rock Bottom is when I officially became a member of the Job Squad. So Job Squad there was a feeling like it's starting to fade out a little bit. DX was the big faction, So one night I'm doing comedy. They had me do commentary during Al Snow's match. It's me, Shane McMahon, and Kevin Kelly. And during the match, Goldust would come out and steal Al Snow's head, the mannequin head.
Yeah.
So I'm like, my wheels start spinning. So I go back to the locker room and I see Vince Russo. I'm like, hey, Vince, Goldust just stole Al Snow's head. I did a character in ECW called Blue Dust. What if I bring back the character Blue Dust and, Goldust is the guy who played Mind Games. Well, if I play Mind Games with the guy who plays Mind Games to steal Al Snow's head back as Blue Dust. I'm talking to him. He's sitting there like, nodding along. He's like, great idea. Let's go pitch it. And he comes back. He's like, yep, we're going to do it. And just on instinct alone, I start feuding with Goldust as Blue Dust. And we had one pay-per-view match. It was the opening for St. Valentine's Day Massacre 99. Opened the show, which is a big sign of respect because I always say, besides the main event, the opening match is probably one of the more important matches because you're setting the tone for the night.
Exactly.
So we go from feuding, and then they start pairing us up as a tag team. And it was probably one of the best times of my life, tagging with Goldust and learning from Dustin, the man behind the scenes, because I was so fortunate to learn from Al Snow, learn from Raven, Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, Paul Heyman, go to, WWE, reunite with Al, but now I'm working with Dustin, learning a whole bunch of other stuff, I'm a little, when it comes to my, wrestling training, I'm a little bit of a mutt, so to speak. So
that's great. Pick up a little bit of everything from everyone that you admire and create your own.
I wish I could put my 52-year-old brain in my 20-year-old body, just to navigate, but I wouldn't trade anything I've ever done. I wouldn't trade anything for the world. But like, if I could take some of what I know now, put it in that younger body, I would have navigated even a little bit more better.
Yeah, of course. We learn from it, don't we? And
Yeah.
try to teach the next generation.
Whether they're willing to listen or not, that's a whole nother story. But yeah.
And then after WWE, I didn't know this, but you tagged with Jim Neidhart.
Yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
WWE wanted to kind of repackage me. So they had just linked up with a promotion in Memphis, Memphis Championship Wrestling. They sent me down there for a couple months. And I had lost like a whole bunch of weight. I went from being 390 I got down to 240. They're like, well, you're not the Blue Meanie anymore. Let's go down there, find a new character. So I still call myself the Blue Meanie, but I was trying different things.
Yeah.
And we start filming skits where I'm hassling Jim the Anvil Neidhart to be the new Heart Foundation. Just, hey, I could be your
You have a
president.
beard too, like you do now?
Yeah. It's this beard is partly inspired from Jim Neidhart. Back then I had the starter kit. I didn't have the full blown, now I got the full blown Jim.
Yeah. There you go. Someone's got to rock it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a little bit of ode to Jim Neidhart. But me and Jim got to again, I learned a lot. Jim was down there as a trainer as well. So, him being from the dungeon, we're doing tons of, Hindu squats and, tons of cardio and just be able to do promos and skits with Jim. And then eventually we became tag team champions for Memphis Championship Wrestling. To say I was a tag team champion with Jim the Anvil Neidhart was.
You have pictures of that?
Yeah. Oh, I have. I wish I had professionally posed photos.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stills that I've taken off of YouTube. And some of I still go. I look back on that fondly. I still go back and look for the footage on YouTube of me and Jim because we did some really funny skits where usually he was the wild guy and like Brett was the straight man. Here he was the straight man and I was the goofball.
You're like the younger, out of control brother.
How much of a goofball do I have to be for Jim Neidhart to be the straight man in the situation?
Seriously.
Yeah. So, but Jim, I had to leave Memphis. My grandma got sick. And eventually I got released from WWE. I needed to go home. My grandma was dying. And, but after that, I always see Jim at conventions and, we always greet each other with a big hug and a big laugh over all the silliness we did in Memphis. And, I have to send you a photo. I
would love to see anything you got.
When I was a kid, WrestleMania, I went to see WrestleMania 1 through 3 at closed circuit at the casinos. Then WrestleMania 4 and 5 came to town, and I went to WrestleMania 4 and 5 as a fan. And my grandfather worked for Trump Plaza, and the WrestleMania was at Trump Plaza. And his boss goes, "I know your grandson loves wrestling. Have him show up Saturday at this time." And we show up, and he walks me into this ballroom. And it's filled with wrestlers. Like this is like pre WWE access. It was meant for like high rollers for the casino. But
how old were you?
87, 88. So I was 13, 14 maybe.
Wow, what a treat.
Yeah. So they would have these booths like professional photographers. I take a photo with the Heart Foundation. And I walk up to him. I was like, "Hey, can we do the Three Musketeers thing?" They're like, "What?" I put my hand out like that, and Jim looks at it and goes, and he puts his hand on mine, and Brett puts his hand on it, and we do this. So I got a photo with I'm the third member of the Heart Foundation. So
that's hilarious.
Later on, I would show him that photo, and he was just like, "Holy shit!" Oh, sorry for swearing, but
that's okay.
He's like, "Oh my god!" Just like. I like, if I share a locker room with somebody, I like to show them a photo of me as a fan with them just to kind of like blow their mind or make them angry.
You always have those circulating online, like, a young Bailey with Bret Hart or whatever.
Yeah. I love stuff like that because I love watching the journey, of somebody who goes from fan to a wrestler. Edge, you see Edge in the crowd at WrestleMania 6, as a young fan.
Do you know Edge and Christian lived with me. Like,
Really?
yeah, when they were training in Calgary, I was, my mom was a single mom and she rented out our basement, undeveloped basement, just like cots down there to a bunch of wrestlers. So that was Edge, Christian, Test, a few other guys that like never made it on TV, but yeah, they all lived here and rented while they trained. So
Tess
they were
was a
like,
big sweetheart.
but Test, he was like my big brother. Like I was going into high school and they were wanting to frosh me. And he's like, do I need to come? Do I need to come there? Like he came to my school, he'd pick me up from school and he's like, stand outside the car, like they're not touching her. That's
That's
my life.
amazing.
Yeah,
Tess was a big sweetheart, and
I love
me and
him.
him hit it off because me, Test, Edge, Christian, the Hardys all got along great because we're around the same age. We all like the same music,
Yeah.
Back in the day, I would make like we're all big Pearl Jam fans, so I made like my own Blue Meanie Pearl Jam mix, and I gave it out to the Hardys and Edge and Christian, and they would listen to it on the road. But then I started having matches with Test, and then there was a post WWE. I worked with Test on the Indies, and there's a match. It was me, D'Lo Brown, Tom Pritchard, and Dusty Rhodes against Mass Superstar, Doink the Clown, Steve Corino, and Test. And me and Steve Corino are like, are we really having this match? But I did a couple of spots with Test to the point where he came back to Philly to do another independent show for somebody else. I saw him and he's like, hey, are you on the show too? I was like, no. He's like, no. He was going to pitch. He wanted to work with me again. So
Aw.
the fact
Yeah,
that
he's
he wanted to get me put on the show so he could work with me because he knew me and him could have a great match. So,
great.
but always a big sweetheart, big
Yeah.
muscular guy who could rip your head off. But deep down inside, he was a big sweetheart.
Yeah, so I was in junior high and I smoked weed and I came home and my eyes were super red and he looked at me, he's like, no, and he like threw a bottle of Visine at me. He's
Yeah,
like, your mom's gonna catch you. He threw the Visine at me and I'm like, oh, okay. So, like, put it in my eyes. I'm like, thanks. Like he was like my big brother just watching out for me.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah,
So
Edge and Christian, I ran into them I did a couple independent shows with them before they broke with WWE. Here's a great Edge and Christian story. So me and Nova are doing a show in Detroit for a guy named Malcolm Monroe. And another guy, there's another guy, he's a referee, AT Huck.
yeah.
Huck was the main booker. And Edge, Christian, and Joey Legend were on the show. And we had, we're in the locker room and we're just laughing up, busting balls. And Nova's like, I'm picking your ring music. They're like, really? All right. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. So it's their match and they're getting ready to come out and the ring music hits and Nova had him come to the ring to Girls in Cars, which was, Strike Force's, ring music. Without missing a beat, they hit the ring. So there's supposed to be a spot where they're like kind of they're the heels and we run out and we're supposed to, run them off. But we go out there and this is around Christmas time and they had a Santa Claus at the show for some reason. And we just we all, combined together, went over and beat up Santa Claus just for no reason. And
Was
we
he
got,
just in the crowd?
I'm sorry.
He was in the crowd, Santa?
Yeah, there's like a Santa. I don't know if he was a local wrestler dressed as Santa,
And we're
but
just gonna get him anyways.
yeah, we're in Detroit and Santa comes in the locker room. So I was like, but yeah, Santa Claus for Christmas. I asked him for my card to still be there when the show's over. Yeah. So, but yeah, we all just like looked at each other, looked at Santa, and we went over, start putting the boots to Santa, just to pop ourselves, But I have a great photo of me, Edge, Christian, and Nova, and Joey Legend from that show. Just always, mix it up with those guys. Great.
That sounds like a fun time. So in the early 2000s, you ran your own promotion?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sore spot. I don't really talk about it too much
No.
because it was cool. It was it all started because somebody I know, a guy named Steve, said, "Hey, this guy offered to sell me his independent wrestling promotion for 30 grand." And I was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "What are you getting with this independent promotion?"
No
"Oh, I
kidding.
don't know. I don't know." It's like, "Well, start your own." And that's where that kind of was born out of. And we had a good run with it. It was a little self-sabotaging. But at the end of the day, it was fun and people still talk about it, but still a little bit of a sore spot just because it could have been better than what it was if certain people in the
Yeah.
promotion hadn't.
Meanie cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, just a lot of it's typical of any independent wrestling show, you
Yeah.
know. There's self-sabotaging. But I will say, the best thing that came out of that promotion, which was called 3PW, Propane Pro Wrestling. I came up with the name because
So is the hardcore league?
it was, a little bit of a mix of everything. We had, we bring in the legend. We would have a core group of younger talent, but we would bring in the legends to be the draw them in so they could see our younger talent. We had guys like Rob Echoes, who became Robbie E in TNA, a woman named Talia, who became Velvet Sky in TNA, Matt Stryker, um, uh, Josh Daniels, and Damian Adams. Damian Adams, who's gone on to be a great trainer as well in professional. There's a core group of talent that went on to be bigger things that kind of like shared that locker room. So it was pretty cool, even though at the end of the day it could have been better than what it was. And I can't sit there and say I have regrets, but I always look back fondly on it just for the cool moments that were there. But that from 2000 to 2004 was kind of rough for me.
Yeah.
I just lost my gig with WWF. My grandmom had just passed away, and you know, I was always, Mick Foley, who we both love dearly,
Yeah.
would say, "Hey, man, you know." And when he found out I was, getting released from WWF, he's like, "Look, you could go out in the Indies and make a killing." Former WWF superstar, and he's like, "Look at all the guys who go out in the Indies and do really well." I was like, "Yeah." So not only do I get let go from WWF, but WCW and ECW go out of business,
Yeah.
and the floodgates open to where every spot on every indie show is filled. And
Right.
like this was supposed to be my make that post WWF indie money, but there's like
Sure.
1,000 places to work. And
Yeah.
so between 2000 and 2004, it's like, oh man. I was I call it my dark years because I went to a real bad depression. But and it's going to sound crazy, but later on when we went to One Night Stand, and I had my issue with JBL at One Night Stand. As horrible as that situation was, it kind of pulled me out of that dark spot because there's a movement online from fans who supported me in that situation, and made me feel like I hadn't been forgotten. Between
Yeah.
2000 2004, I felt like I was lost. I felt like I had been forgotten. I was like, "Well, did I spend all this time and years, sacrificing, and my grandparents sacrificing a lot
Yeah.
to help put me through wrestling school and survive on the indies? Was that for all for nothing?" So, like, I went into a real bad tailspin, but 2000, I believe that was 2004. Uh, Me and JBL had the issue on the pay-per-view, which eventually they brought me out in 2000. They brought me out for a show in Sacramento on July 4th, and they made us go in the room and talk. And we worked out issues, and I wound up having one of the biggest matches of my career on SmackDown against JBL. And that was kind of like the rebirth of my career. And just
Yeah.
where I found myself again and felt comfortable with myself again. And I had to build I had to mend a lot of fences from the 3PW days too, because a lot of things happen, booking wise, that got a lot of heat because when you're the booker, everybody expects, oh, Meanie's my friend, he'll book me.
Yeah.
There's only so many spots on so many cards, and there's other things that went in, other things that happened behind the scenes that burned a lot of bridges too. But 2004, 2005 is when I found myself again.
That is awesome that you were able to, find that self growth, and you started your own podcast. How long have you been doing your podcast for?
Podcast has been going on for 5 years or 6 years. It was started in 2020. Mine at a Meanie podcast I do with my co-host Adam Bernard. Uh, and that was another thing. People always, were always telling me I should write a book. And then people say, "Oh man," they would hear me tell a story, and they're like, "You should do a podcast." I'm like,
Yeah.
What do I do? Podcasting is fun, but it can be hard. And it's like, do I, tell stories? Do I do recaps? So I had to start doing the podcast, and basically, my co-host reads this opening script, and if he finishes off, Meanie, what's on your mind? And then we just start talking and have a conversation, kind of like we're having a conversation here today. And 45 minutes to an hour goes by, and we go, man, that was easy.
Yeah. Do you find that helped you find yourself again as well?
A
Something, the podcast for me, it's something that I just rely on myself. I'm not relying on anyone else besides booking my guests, but this is my project. This is my thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you felt that with your podcast?
If the biggest rewarding thing is when people come up to me and be like, I heard this. Oh, dude, when you and Adam were saying this on the podcast, I was howling, laughing, or, oh, congratulations on episode 3. We just had episode 300 a couple of weeks ago. People are like, oh, congratulations. Yeah. People will come up and mention something we talk about in the podcast. And that means a lot because when you do it, you upload it, you go, here it is. Let's see who finds it. And, when people, find it and come back and report to you, like a message in a bottle, you just throw it out in the ocean, see who finds it, opens it and reads it
and connects with it.
Yeah. We've been doing this for 5 years, going on 6 years. My math is a little goofy on how long we've been doing it.
You're doing good. So I have a few fan questions for you, and we can wrap it up here soon.
Please. Absolutely.
So what is something in your career at the time you didn't enjoy, but now you look back fond of it?
Something I didn't enjoy, but now
you look back like, oh, that was fun.
The toughest part about wrestling is just to travel, there's things I did in wrestling that were fun. Some things I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. But, the hardest part was always the travel,
The show is fun, all that, and then you have to get your ass back home.
Yeah. And
hopefully a connecting flight.
Early morning flight back to Philly. You're on your second connection. You're about to land, and then this is the captain. We're circling because there's inclement weather, and you're like, I just did a 2-week tour. I just want to go home and lay on my bed. Yeah. You go home and with enough time to do laundry and go back out on the road. Again. One time I did a 2-week tour for WWF. Went home, got delayed getting home. Got home, went in my bedroom, sat on my bed, laid back. My grandma knocks on the door. Brian, the doctor's office across the street. Asked if you could bring some 8x10s over. I was like, let me get some sleep.
Yeah. That's so funny.
The hardest part was always, the wrestling was hard, just the grind, but the travel.
Yeah.
But I look back on that finally because I got to see the world on somebody else's dime, just
absolutely.
And that's the big thing about now is when I travel, I make sure my wife's included. Mrs. Meanie comes along, and I'll take a booking.
If you're stranded, then you're with her.
Yes, and we'll drive to a lot of places. If it's within 12 or 13 hours, I'll drive. Yeah. And we have our set. We can drive and not talk for an hour and still be
content,
comfortable. It's I would say the travel.
I love road tripping, and honestly, there's more leg room for me in cars and I'm little. I don't know how you big guys do it.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
Oh wow,
I'm average. Yeah. I'm technically average, but my legs still hurt flying. I can't imagine tall people or.
Especially somebody leans back their seat and you're just like, oh, the back of the seat looks like a huge head smasher in case we ever crash. Yeah.
Good. So have you ever met any legendary actors or musicians?
Oh, uh, growing up in Atlantic City had its perks because this was around the time Mike Tyson was having huge championship fights, and he would fight in Atlantic City all the time.
Yes.
But there was also a time where George George Foreman, duh. George Foreman was fighting Evander Holyfield in Atlantic City, and I was like, "Oh, let me go people watch." And with that night, I went to go see him pre-fight. Met John Bon Jovi.
Wow.
Uh, we're standing at the guardrails waiting for people to go through. John Bon Jovi sneaks around the back, and he walks like right by me. I was like, "Oh, is that John Bon Jovi?" So I run into the casino where he is. He gets mobbed. He gets a little flustered, runs back to his limo, and I go, "I know exactly where he's going." You know, growing up in Lansing, you just know.
Yeah.
So I run down towards the boardwalk, run down the boardwalk, run down, get to the hotel lobby, run to the elevators. He's back down the elevator. I go, I'm winded. I'm blown up. I'm like, John Bon Jovi. He's going to try.
Fangirling?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was trying to formulate words, and he looks over and he looks at somebody in the elevator and goes, "1 second, 1 second." Comes over and asks the security guard to take a photo of us, and we take a photo. Thank you, John Bon Jovi. And so the next day I wake up, I was like, "Oh man, let me go back down there and see who's around." So I go back to that same hotel. I walk in the lobby and there's Gene Hackman. And I was like, "Oh my god, Gene Hackman standing next to Mr. T." The weirdest thing. So I walk in, I go, "Mr. Hackman, can we take a photo?" He's absolutely. Take the photo. He thanks me for taking a photo. I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But yeah, in that one weekend I met John Bon Jovi and Gene Hackman. Now, one time I was in California. I was working out at a local World's Gym in Marina Del Rey, and I walk into the gym, and within the course of 20 minutes, I see the singer from Suicidal Tendencies. I can't remember his name. Pink,
She's
the
from
singer.
Philly.
Yes, she was on a
Oh,
treadmill.
yeah.
She was on a stairmaster, just like, "Oh shit, there's Pink." I turned to my left, and there's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm just like all within the course of like a half hour, 20 minutes. I'm just like, cool. just
Love suicidal tendencies, by the way.
just saw them open up for Slayer in Hershey. First time seeing him live, which was amazing. But he worked out like as
I
you
think his
see
name's Mike. Mike something.
Mike Muir.
Yeah.
Mike
Yes.
Muir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teamwork. High five.
I need my music, kind of.
Yeah. But he was working out in his stage gear. He had the socks pulled up to his knees. He had the bandana
I
on.
love that look. Yeah.
I was like, this is, and then like he was leaving. He had this like, here's this legend from Suicidal Tendencies driving off in a little beat up pickup truck. I
Yeah.
was like,
I believe it.
this is great. This is great. So many stories that you could tell that like if you told somebody else, they're like, yeah, you're making that up. Yeah. Schwarzenegger, Pink, and Mike Muir. Okay. Yeah. I was at the same gym a couple weeks later. I went to go work out on the machine. There's Al Bundy,
Oh
the
my
guy.
God.
I was like, oh, sorry. So I go over to another machine.
Now.
I'm doing whatever, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. Turn it out. Oh, the machine's open. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I went inside. I'm going, Al Bundy just told me the machine open. Crazy.
If only Peggy was there too in her workout attire.
All right, Peg. All right. All I want is a bologna sandwich, Peg.
It was a good show. So my last fan question was if you have any Jim Neidhart stories.
Jim. Okay. I got a story. So we're in Memphis, and the promotion it was fun to work for, but the guy running it was just into collecting his check from WWF. He didn't go and promote these shows. He just booked buildings for us to work in. And sometimes every Thursday we're going to Blytheville, Arkansas, which we went there the first time and it was sold out because they booked Jerry Lawler on the show. And then eventually the show started dwindling and dwindling. It's like, dude, send somebody out there, at least put flyers out, do something.
Yeah.
So me and Jim are, in a tag team, but we have a little bit of a on-screen riff, kind of like, you know, I'm Chris Farley, he's Spade, when technically we're two Chris Farleys. But I was like, oh man, it's me, Reckless Youth, Ron Killings was down there. So me and Jim was a little bit, he was fun, but he could be serious at times. So I was like, oh, we got to rib Jim, just for our own amusement, You try to break him a little bit, not in a bad way. So Jim's going to work Reckless Youth, and I'm going to run out there and say, hey, Jim, use this weapon. And I was like, I'll throw you a weapon. You go to pick it up. Reckless Youth Schoolboys, you 1, 2, 3. I accidentally cause you to be distracted. It's like, all right, well, what are you going to use? What are you going to throw? I don't know. I'll figure something out. I don't know. I have to look through my bag. Yeah. Meanwhile, we all know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
So they go, he's like, he's about to go through. Do you know what you're going to throw? Dude, I'm looking. I swear. I'll find something. I'll look through here or whatever. So they go out and then my cue comes on to run in and go, hey, Jim, throw this. So, he gets Reckless Youth down. He's looking. I go, Jim, hit him with this. And I launch a rubber chicken into the ring, which lands at his feet. He looks down, looks up, gets schoolboyed. 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh no. We get back to the locker room and Jim goes, Meanie, a rubber chicken? It's like, where did you pull a rubber chicken from? I was like, Jim, we were ribbing you. And we all laughed. I had a spare rubber chicken in my bag. I went and we were at the mall because we were bored, and I went to a Spencer Gifts and bought a rubber chicken that week. It's like, we gotta rib Jim somehow. And we came up with that spot, and I did the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I did the sky hook. The rubber chicken landed at his feet, and he legit just went and got schoolboyed 1, 2, 3, and it was a lot. The curtain was sold out, as they say in wrestling, because all the boys, everybody else was smart into it too, and it was a fun little rib, Jim was
harmless rib.
Harmless rig, but like his reaction was money. I wish my eyeballs had cameras in them. That's what I always.
You don't have footage of that either.
No, unfortunately not. It was a spot show, house show, no cameras, but my God, I wish I had footage of that.
So I have a quick little this or that segment.
Okay.
Just say which one you prefer, blue or green. This is a tough question.
Especially if it's Kelly Green.
I know. Okay, yeah, blue or Kelly Green?
Kelly Green.
Yeah. So I put in my hair yesterday.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little fun. Hardcore wrestling or technical wrestling?
Oh, I'll have to say technical wrestling, just because hardcore, the term hardcore wrestling, it's going off from what it originally meant.
Yeah, totally.
Hardcore wrestling was for the people who are just diehard wrestling fans. They would forget paying their electric bill because they had to buy tickets to wrestling. Those hardcore fans, and ECW was for hardcore fans, and then hardcore got labeled with light tubes and tables.
Yes.
And so by those standards, I'll have to say technical wrestling.
Fair. Five Guys or In-N-Out Burger?
Five Guys.
I don't know if I've had either, to be honest. I think I've had Five Guys. I think we have that here.
Well, Five Guys is more accessible too. Yeah. We have it over in Jersey, but In-N-Out.
I think we have an In-N-Out now. It's new, but I haven't been.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not bad, but I'll take Five Guys.
Sixers or Flyers?
Flyers. When I was 3 years old, I was at the the second Stanley Cup parade when I was a baby in my crib, in my stroller. So I'll have to say Flyers.
Awesome. South Street or Old Philly?
Oh, probably South Street.
Yeah.
You know, as a teenager, you going down there and going to the record shops and looking for records or bootleg CDs. You know, I'll take South Street.
I want to do a photo shoot in Old Philly. It just
Yeah.
looks so cool.
Oh,
All brick.
Oh yeah.
Which it really reminds me of England as well.
Oh yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. The cobblestones are still there. You know, there's still parts of South Philly that still have cobblestones too. But I would say South Street in the 90s. Magical.
Is there any events you want to plug? Up and coming events, merchandise?
Well, like I said, we'll both be in Manchester, February 21st and 22nd at For the Love of Wrestling. For tickets, autograph tickets, photo tickets, and the after party, go to fortheloveofwrestling.co.uk. If you would like the conversation we're having here, I know I go in a lot of side quests and with my questions. Mine at a meeting.
Good. You stay on track. You got a good memory, actually.
Yeah, it's my favorite guitar player is Eddie Van Halen, and he always described his playing as falling down the stairs but landing on his feet. So when I tell a story, I go here and there, but eventually I bring it back to the point that we were trying.
Yeah, I do that, but I forget my point. I'm like, what was I talking about?
Alexa, what was my point? But if you like conversations like we had here, Mind and Meanie, wherever you get your favorite podcast, drops every Monday morning. If you like to support the Blue Meanie, go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. Get yourself a BWO shirt or some Philly-esque type
I'm getting one. I was checking them out. There's lots on there if you're a Philly fan, Philadelphia fan, Hello Kitty fan. There's a little bit of something for everyone on there.
Yeah, Mrs. Meanie did that one. I'm pretty proud of that one. Yeah, prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie BWO. I'm also on Cameo, cameo.com/Blue Meanie BWO. I just did a Cameo video before I came on here for the podcast. So I try to make that somebody's day a little bit brighter on Cameo. But most importantly, you can follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Blue Meanie BWO. You can find, see what shenanigans I'm up to or what beer I'm drinking over at McCusker's in South Philly. I'm sure I'll have plenty of photos from the Eagles 49ers game tomorrow. So
yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait to meet you in February. Have so much fun at the game tomorrow.
Yes.
I will be, I'm sure we'll be in touch throughout the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you everyone for joining us in the Dollhouse. And please remember to sign that petition to get my dad into the Hall of Fame.
I signed it.
Thank you so much. Because that's what this is all about, is helping keep his legacy alive. We'll see you next time. Bye.